She shoved her carry-on into the overhead bin and pointed straight at my golden retriever, who was curled quietly at my feet. "That dog doesn't belong here. Move him. I want that seat." The plane was still boarding, people lining up in the aisle, but her voice cut through everything. I looked up slowly, holding my service dog's harness, and said, "He's a service animal. He's staying." She rolled her eyes and barked at the flight attendant. "Well, then kick him to cargo, because I paid for this row." The whole cabin turned to watch, whispers buzzing. My service dog shifted closer to me, calm but alert. She jabbed her finger inches from my face. Either the mutt goes or I do. I almost laughed, because what she didn't realize was the man stepping onto the plane behind her was not just any passenger. He was my oldest friend, and the pilot scheduled to fly this plane. Karen spun around when she heard the voice behind her. "Is there a problem here?" My friend's uniform stripes caught the light as he adjusted his cap, stepping fully into the cabin. Karen smirked like she had just been handed a weapon. "Yes, finally! You need to make him move that animal. I demand this seat. It's mine, and I don't sit next to dogs." She folded her arms, chin raised like she owned the whole airline. The flight attendant opened her mouth to explain, but my friend raised a hand gently. "Ma'am, that's a service dog. He has every right to be here." Karen scoffed. "Oh, please, everyone says that now just to bring pets on planes. I don't care what excuse he gives, it's disgusting and against the rules." My service dog's ears perked up at her shouting, but he stayed calm, eyes on me like he was trained to. I stayed silent, watching, as my pilot friend crouched down and patted my dog once on the head before standing tall again. His next words cut through the tense cabin. "Funny thing about rules, ma'am. I'm the one who enforces them up here." The row of passengers behind us chuckled under their breath, and Karen's smirk faltered for the first time. Karen's face flushed red, but instead of backing down, she doubled her volume. "You think that uniform scares me? I'll have your job. I'll sue this whole airline if you don't move me right now." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the cabin. Passengers were pulling out phones, recording. The flight attendant whispered, "Ma'am, please lower your voice." But Karen jabbed her finger toward me again. "Him and his fake service dog. Out!" My friend's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed calm, almost too calm. "Ma'am, you're forgetting something important." Karen barked, "Oh yeah? What's that?" He stepped closer, towering over her now, and said, "This isn't your plane. It's mine." For a split second, the aisle went dead silent, only the hum of the air conditioning filling the space. My service dog rested his chin on my knee, steady and unbothered, while Karen's eyes darted around, realizing every passenger was watching her lose control. And then she made her biggest mistake. She grabbed at my dog's harness, trying to yank him aside. The entire row gasped. Someone yelled, "Don't touch the dog!" And my pilot friend's hand shot out, gripping her wrist before she could pull again. His voice dropped low, sharp as a blade. "You just crossed the line."
Karen yanked her arm back, clutching her wrist like she'd been wronged, and shrieked, "Did you see that? He assaulted me! Arrest him!" She turned to the cops that weren't even there yet, screeching loud enough to rattle the cabin walls. The passengers laughed nervously, some shaking their heads, others recording even closer. The flight attendant pressed the call button to the cockpit, her voice shaky but firm. "Captain, we need ground security." Karen spun on my friend, jabbing her finger again. "You can't touch me! I'm a paying customer! You don't have authority here!" His expression didn't change, his voice steady as stone. "Ma'am, I am the captain of this flight, and you just put your hands on a service dog. That's a federal offense." Gasps broke out across the rows. Karen froze, her eyes wide for the first time, her mouth opening and closing with no words. My service dog leaned against my leg, sensing the tension, calm like he'd seen it all before. I stroked his head, whispering, "Good boy," as two airport security officers stepped into the cabin. The pilot nodded toward them without even looking at Karen. "She's done here." The security officers moved down the aisle, and Karen instantly switched tactics. Her voice went from rage to fake sweetness in a heartbeat. "Officers, thank God you're here. This man brought a dangerous animal on board, and this pilot, he laid his hands on me. I'm the victim here." She even clutched her pearls like she was acting in some cheap play. The officers didn't even respond. One of them glanced at the flight attendant, who silently held up her tablet, already showing the recording from the cabin cameras. Clear as day, it showed Karen shouting, grabbing at my dog's harness, and trying to force her way into my seat. The other officer looked back at her, unimpressed. "Ma'am, we've seen enough." Karen's face crumpled, her hand shaking as she blurted, "No, no, you don't understand. I'm the HOA president back home. I know my rights." The words sounded ridiculous in the cramped airplane, and a ripple of laughter spread through the rows. My pilot friend finally stepped forward, his voice deep and final. "This flight isn't going anywhere until she's off." He nodded once at the officers, and they moved in. Karen shrieked, clinging to the headrest of the nearest seat, but the officers pried her hands loose one by one. The passengers started clapping, some even cheering. As they dragged her down the aisle, still kicking and screaming, my service dog calmly curled back at my feet, resting his head like nothing had happened. My friend leaned toward me with a faint grin and whispered, "Guess she didn't read the part where the captain makes the final call." Karen's shrieks echoed faintly as the officers hauled her off the jet bridge, her voice cracking into threats no one cared about anymore. The second she was gone, the cabin filled with applause. Some passengers whistled, others shouted, "Good riddance," and a few leaned over to scratch my service dog's ears, thanking him like he was part of the crew. He wagged his tail once, calm and proud. The flight attendant returned to our row, kneeling beside me with a warm smile. "Sir, your dog is welcome anytime, and thank you for staying calm through all that." I nodded, patting his head. "He does most of the work. I just sit here." A ripple of laughter ran through the row. Then my pilot friend stepped back into the cockpit doorway, his cap tilted, eyes sweeping over the passengers. He gave a quick nod to the flight attendant, then looked straight at me. "Ready to fly?" I smirked, scratching behind my dog's ears. "Ready when you are, Captain." The cabin cheered again as the doors closed, the engines hummed louder, and the plane began to push back from the gate. For the rest of that flight, no one mentioned Karen again. But as the wheels lifted off the ground, I couldn't help whispering to my dog, "Funny, huh? She thought she owned the seat. Turns out she lost the whole plane."